Hi, Andy here. I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how I make socks with self-striping yarn with true afterthought heels. So first what you do is you're going to pick out self-striping yarn. I like white birch. I'll put all the information on the yarn below. You're going to weigh your yarn on a scale. This yarn is about 4 ounces, so I will be knitting it in half for 2 ounces per sock. If I wanted to make shorter socks, I would do about 1 ounce per sock. After I've measured it, I'm going to cast it on. I particularly like to use a size 2. This is about a 40-inch long cable, Chiago's. So you're going to cast on and you're going to work a 2x2 rib. I change from the 2x2 rib to solid stockinette stitch when there is a color change. It's about 1/2 inch in this particular yarn. Another option would be to use a contrast color for your cuff. This one, just the way it worked out, it worked well using that. So an option, contrast color for your cuff, and then begin your stockinette stitch. You're going to work it until you will have 2 ounces of yarn left. This is for if you're making 2. Where you're going to weigh it and you're going to knit until you have the amount left per ration per sock. So then you're going to work your second one the same way. So you're going to knit all the way to the toe, and for the toe you are going to use a contrast color yarn. Second sock, you're going to do the same exact thing. So this is how I determine where I'm going to cut in for my heel on my sock. So I measured my son's foot, and like I said, he's 10.5 inches from his toe to his heel. And I measured my finished sock here, and this is 1.75 inches. I need it to be 10.5 overall, so I did 10.5 minus the 1.75 inches. The 1.75 inches is the measurement for the heel, which I know is going to be the same as the toe because I'm going to be using the same yarn and same size needle. So I need to cut in for the heel at 8.75 inches from the toe down. This is going to be my place where I'm going to mark it. So here's a sample over here. I have from the toe, I measure down to 8.75. Now this comes right about 8.5. I like to cut in for my heel between the two colors. So I placed my marker right here on this last row of red. And as you can see, this one I already did. So you can see this is where I cut in for my heel. This is before, this is after. By doing that, I like the way it blends. I like that the gray line goes up here and the red line goes here. If I picked it in the middle, then you'd have half gray here and half gray here. I like to try and keep that solid. So I pick up, so it breaks it up. So I don't have any of the gray here or like one stripe of red up here. So that's how I measure that. This sock that I'm showing in the sample is 64 stitches around. So when I'm going to be picking up for the heel, I'm using half of that number, which is 32. So I'm going to be picking up 32 stitches on the back for the heel. If you had 60 stitches, you're going to be picking up 30 and so on. You're picking up half that amount. And like I said, then you're going to be working the decrease the same as your toe. So I will show you how I did that. So now we've marked where we want our heel. I'll make sure it's folded in half so the toe is flat. Since we're going to be cutting in for the heel here, you really don't want it not here. You want to make sure it's laid flat. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this last row here of my gray. I'm going to pick up the right leg of each stitch across. If I don't get the right leg, I'm not that concerned. As I go back and knit it, I will straighten it out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I picked up the 32 stitches along that gray line. And here's my toe. Now I'm going to pull my needle through. I'm going to turn it around. Now I'm going to skip a row and I'm going to pick up the right side legs of the row below. And again, if I don't get the right side legs, It's not the end of the world. So when I say you're going to pick up the right side leg of each stitch, I just wanted to be clear, sometimes it's easier just to get the left side with the right side, but basically every knit stitch makes like a V. You have your right and your left. These two together form your stitch. So you're going to pick up one leg. When I say you're going to pick up one leg of the stitch, that's what I mean. As long as you if you look at each little leg or each little row, there's each V, you're picking up one side of the V. Basically every other little V or little dash you're picking up. So you'll pick one up, you'll skip one, you pick one up, you skip one, and you just keep doing that all the way down. So once they're all picked up, you're going to work the same as the toe. You're going to work your decreases, and then you're going to Kitchener stitch it closed, and then you'll weave in your ends, and you have a lovely sock. Now I picked up 32 stitches and 32 stitches, and as you can see, right between there is a row of red. So you're going to go right about the middle. You're going to pick up one leg of that row between your stitches, and you're going to cut it. I have a darning needle handy, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to use the blunt end. And you're going to pick the yarn out. So you're going to go this way up until the last two stitches. I don't unravel the last two stitches. It kind of helps seal the hole. But I'm going to, once I get this apart a little bit more, I'm going to show you a little bit clearer to help you see if you are confused on what stitches to be picking up. What I'm doing, you can see when I pull this out, you're left with these gray stitches or live stitches on your needle. And you're going to pull, and it just comes out from the row below and the row above. Now the difference between picking up the right leg and the left leg is the stitches that you picked up here, they might be twisted. And as you knit them, you'll see if they're twisted or not. It's really, really not a big deal. So now I've left these two at the end. I'll do one more. So now I've left these two at the end, and I'll leave them just like that. And on this yarn I'll tuck it in here. Make that go away, and I'll weave that in later. And now I'm going to turn this around. So now I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to work to 2 stitches before the end, pulling out this yarn, and I'll do the same thing when I get to the end. I'll just stick it in my sock, and I'll be weaving that in later. And as you can see, I'm left with this row of gray and a row of red. And I would like to point out, I did try this on my son, this one here. I did try that on him before I cut this one, in case I had to make any changes. You know, you can use the same technique if the sock came out too short and you wanted to add length to it. You can do the same thing. You can cut all the way around. This technique can be used in so many things. So it's not just for socks. Could be adding length to a sweater. It's just a good handy thing to learn to do, and it's easy on a sock because basically you're working only on like a 32 inches. Alright, so now we're ready to start our heel. So I'm using the magic loop method, and I am going to join the contrast color on for the heel. So what I'm going to do is knit to the end, and as you can see, like I said, as I come to some of the stitches, if they are twisted, I will straighten them back out. So I knit across the one side. And now I'll knit across the front. So I picked up all my stitches, so knit with my contrast color yarn. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to magic loop the heel the same way that I did the toe. It's important that I follow the same directions that I did for the toe because I based my size for the heel based off of the toe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit one, slip, slip, knit, knit to the last 3 stitches, knit 2 together and knit 1. I'll turn around the back, same thing. I'll work the same decreases, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit to the last 3, knit 2, knit 1, and then I'll knit 1 round even. I'm doing a 64 stitch sock, so I will work until I have 32 total stitches left, and then I will do the decrease every round until I have 16 stitches left. I'll have 8 on the front, 8 on the back, and I'll Kitchener that. So I'm going to keep going and I will be back when I'm ready to Kitchener. So I've worked the decreases on the heel. I now have 16 stitches left. I have 8 on the back, 8 on the front. I've thread the yarn on my tapestry needle. The yarn is on the back, and now I'm going to do my Kitchener stitch. So I go through the first stitch as if to purl and leave it on. Go through the back as if to knit, and then through the front as if to knit. And I pull that off. I go through the next stitch as if to purl. I go through the back as if to purl. And I pull it off. Knit off, and then I go back to the back stitch as if to purl. So now I've Kitchenered the toe and just because I wasn't fully paying attention, I got a little extra thing here, but that's okay. I'll weave that little part in. There are different techniques to make that go away. It's usually not that pronounced, but I was looking at the camera, so it's all good. So now I have my 2 socks. You know, another easy way I double check the sizes is that, you know, you can match up your stripes. Alright, I'm going to weave in my ends and get them on my son's feet. Alright, so I hope that helped you, and I hope I remember how to make socks next time. I cast them on. This is a technique I really like to do because with the self-striping yarn, I really don't like to have a bunch left over. And technically, if I pulled this out, I really could make, if I went to this right here and used a contrast color yarn, I could actually make him 4 socks out of 1 skein. I would have to use a contrast color for the cuff, the heel, and the toe, because like I said, he's got big feet, size 10 foot, or 10.5-inch foot. But the style he likes are really long, and he loves the self-striping yarn. This is one of his favorite things. So again, like I said, I made this video to help me remember the steps that I do because I don't always make these. I'm more of a sweater knitter, but I tend to have to jump back on YouTube and look at all my notes. I particularly like Kirby Werby's tutorial. That's the one I usually always go and reference, but I wanted to just make this video to add in a couple of my notes. Alright, so that's how I make my self-striping socks. I hope this tutorial was helpful. We'll see you next time.